Back with chapter 3.3, more score stories with Mike North. My name is Aldo Gandia. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great, Aldo. Ready to go and tell some more about just a wonderful, blessed career that I've had. Period. End of story. And I'm excited about it. Period.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, since our last episode was released, I've had a lot of people in their 20s and 30s reach out to me and say, wow, what a tremendous story this is. I wasn't in Chicago. I wasn't, listening to sports radio because I was too young at the time. This guy really, really made an impact in Chicago. So one of the great things for me is that more and more people are exposed to your achievements in the 1990s and beyond.
Yeah, and we're going to keep telling you folks, just go to the podcast page, go to the bar room, go to Raging Mouth, and check out all the episodes. We have some cuts. Aldo did a great job the other day in promoting the Pat Riley situation, which we'll get to down the line. So, yeah, it's been a great career. I still have it going. I'm blessed to be still working on terrestrial radio and doing other things. And you know what? If you told me will you last 32, 33, 34 years, if you would have told me that 32 years ago, I would have looked at you, because they were telling us once again that we weren't going to last 6 months. And that seemed like a galvanizing thing for not only me, but for everybody that worked at that station at the time.
Yeah, well, high school dropout, hot dog stand owner. When you look at that on the surface, you think, yeah, this guy won't last 6 months, and you did. So credit to you, my friend.
Yeah, all right, you know what's funny? You know what's funny, real quick? They thought we were all going to fail. They thought the whole station was going to fail, and we had some very, very accomplished people on that station, and starting at the top, where I think all your great franchises, whether it's in teams, whether it's on radio or TV, it stops at the top, and it starts at the top. If you're not doing what you think you should be doing, I think you got to look at the top and then look at the rest of the people, because sometimes you're just not allowed to express what you want to express. Thankfully, in those days, we were.
Yeah, indeed. You definitely were. Okay, let's move on. We talked a lot about some of your best interviews last time, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I wanted to start this show with any interviews that you did that you either look back on and said, wow, that was a tough one, or wow, that didn't go well, or wow, I wish I could have that over. Any interviews in your mind that did not go well?
I think the only time, nothing that really sticks out, I was always ready to go. I was prepared as well as you can be. I remember, we'd get a guest list and we'd fill it out back in the day, and we'd say what we want, who we want. And if Jesse Rogers or one of our reporters were at Wrigley Field or Comiskey Park during a day game, for instance, sometimes the guests would come by surprise. Then you had to go by your expertise. We didn't have if we had a road player on, okay, that was at Wrigley Field or Sox Park, and we didn't know that much about them. We had media guides. We didn't have a computer, but I very rarely had to go to those because I pretty well was confident that I knew whoever was going to come on, whether it be Greg Maddux, whether it be Tom Glavine, whether it be Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle. These are all people that I interviewed. Like I said earlier, I had done 19,000 interviews for a day we were doing. I never really had any issues. My first guests were me and Dan's first guests with the Monster Show was John Madden and Mayor Daley. That was a walk in the park for me, but the only difference was it was my first day on the job. So I had to make sure I didn't get too nervous or anything like that. And once I got behind the mic, I might as well have been behind the counter at the hot dog stand or at the local bar or anywhere else. I just felt comfortable.
There was one encounter with a baseball player named Albert Bell. And for you youngsters out there who may not remember or recognize the name, Albert Bell was a notorious tough guy and power hitter, played for the Cleveland Indians. They were known as the Indians back then, was traded to the Chicago White Sox. And over his 2-year span with the White Sox, he hit 79 home runs. He played very well. His first year with only 30 and then 49 the following year. Something happened between you and Albert Bell. Mike North, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, that wasn't really an interview, though. That was
Right.
in response to Albert Bell had an issue. Now, I was critical of Albert Bell at times, but I also knew what kind of player he was. My criticism was he wouldn't start playing until June. I mean, the guy would struggle in the cold weather months, April and May, and then boom, the next thing you know, he's hitting like 39, 40 home runs in a 4-month span. I mean, he was that impressive. I remember him at LSU when he was Joey Bell. So he gets into a little domestic situation with a young lady, and Doug Buffone and I are on the air, and we get this report that Albert Bell took the phone off the wall and threw it at a girl that he was with, and she was from Alsop. Well, you know, we start talking, and I go, man, this is not what you want to be reading if you're the White Sox and if you're Albert Bell. And Doug Buffone says, yeah, you know what, little buddy, I mean, you know, there's certain kinds of girls. He probably got hooked up with a swamp angel. This is Doug that said that. So the White Sox heard it because when I went to the game, I would always go into the locker room, and it was a den of lions. And I was that porterhouse that they were going to fight over him if there was a problem. And the White Sox hierarchy used to tip people off, certain players off, who's coming, who's here. This guy said this. Mariotti said that. I mean, Mariotti, for instance, Jamie Mariotti had all sorts of problems out there because of the columns he wrote. Well, I go into the locker room and I see Albert Bell, and he's staring at me, and he's got a ball in a mitt, and he's sitting there. And I see all the reporters starting to back up and hiding, you know, because they got such spines, and they're all hiding. And he keeps looking at me. I go, what are you looking at? He goes, I go, you must think I'm scared or something. And then he got up, I got up, people stepped in, and then it was broken up. But so he had never seen me before, as far as I know. And he wouldn't know if I was in there because at that time, the White Sox had plenty of people in the locker room after the game, plus players and everything else. So right there, I knew that one of the people in the upstairs, which everybody knows, they're lifetime employees. So, you know, they're going to, and they don't like the media all that much, never have. So that's what I knew. So I adopted my rule for the most part, most of the time. If you got a problem with me, come to the studio. Okay? I'm not coming there no more. Because if you're going to try to set me up, that's not going to go good for you. Because I'm not going to back down. I don't care. Okay? And I've had a few like altercations like that with other players and other coaches and stuff. And some of them knew who I was, which was fine. And some of them heard because they all listened to the Score back in the day. You know, every other place or every other sports show back in the day used to coddle the players for the most part. In fact, you know, it was a whole different ball game when we came in. So that was my rule. You better come see me if you got a problem. Nobody came.
And how did this impact the field reporters at the Score? Were they Go ahead. Please go
Oh,
ahead.
I knew what you were going to say. Mike Greenberg, George Hoffman, Danny Bernstein, Zach Zaidman, all these guys were sent out there to do fine reporting, which they all did. I mean, we swept awards one year. I remember it was me and Dan Jiggets won Show of the Year. Jesse Rogers won Best Producer. And Dan Bernstein won Best Reporter. So these guys were all accomplished. But what got it hard for them was they'd be there. They'd be at the stadium. They'd be at Wrigley Field. They'd be at Comiskey Park or whatever the hell it was called back then. And I'm not talking to you guys. I'm not talking. And it wasn't just confined to me. You know, they heard plenty. I'm not coming on with that North guy. Or I'm not coming on with the afternoon show. Okay? Or I'm not getting up in the morning for Tom Scher show. I mean, it was across the board. If they didn't want to come on, they'd find somebody to blame for not wanting to come on. The guys I respected were the guys that came on. And there were plenty of them. Guys like Chris Zorich. I mean, I told Chris Zorich on an interview, I didn't know there was a 97-yard line. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, because you were planted on your ass so much between the 40 and 50-yard line. I thought there was a 97-yard line because you're back and printed in. And he took it in stride. Roenick could take things in stride. There's just some guys that are thin-skinned, and I don't blame them. Nobody likes to be talked about. Nobody wanted to make our show in a bad way. Nobody wanted. I can only speak for mine and Dan's show. Nobody wanted to be on our show in a bad way. But they forgot that we said plenty good. But see, when you're only tuned in to hear the bad, that's a mistake. And I'll give you one quick example. When I was on the air, the Sox had their best years of attendance. Me and Dan, McNeil and Boris, Cher, the Weekend Show, Mike Murphy, all those guys, Freddie Hubner, guys that the attendance, it was the Sox were talked about. They were talked about, and plenty of times they were good. 93, they made the playoffs, so it couldn't have been all that bad. So they only hear the bad stuff. That's been their knock from a lot of people for a lot of years. And I'm talking about the White Sox. The Cubs seem to handle things in stride. The Bears, no way. They got their own media. Yeah. Like most of the teams now, they got their own media. That's the papers and the people that work for the papers that basically work for the teams now.
You mentioned Chris Zorich's name, the former Notre Dame player who was highly coveted by Mike Ditka and the Chicago Bears.
Absolutely.
You guys did go back and forth a little bit, but you guys are friends, were friends. Mm-hmm. And the one big story that I remember, I didn't hear it on the radio. I saw it in the newspaper. It was you running a race against Chris Zorich. Take us back to that time and how that transpired.
Well, you know what? There's been a couple people that have beaten me in races. In fact, one night, I think Bernstein, we were in Indianapolis. I think Danny, we had a few libations, and I had been street racing for years. And I had a few, but I'm not making. So did Danny. And he beat me in the street race. I'll never forget that. We went back and we had a good time, hung out at the place that we were at. But Chris Zorich, and by the way, Danny was a lot younger and he was quick. I got to be honest. And he wanted to win. All of our guys were competitors. Chris Zorich, he's on one day. And I said, you know, I mean, you looked a little slow. You looked a little slow there. He goes, well, you don't want to race me. I go, why not? I said, I want to race you. I'm not afraid to race you. Okay, a lot younger guy. I'm in my 40s at the time. Chris is like a fine-tuned athlete out of Notre Dame, built like a brick. Okay, and it turned into one of our greatest bits. I go in and I talked to I don't know if Jeff Schwartz was there yet. He might have been. Danny Lee, Seth Mason. I always ran this stuff by him, and they'd stare at me for a minute, and then they'd go, "Why not?" I challenged Chris to a race, and he says, "Where do you want to race?" And I said, "By the station. We'll race down the street. Um, we'll go about 100 yards." So we go to Laverne and Belmont, which is kitty to that, and we mapped off, I think we mapped off 50, 60 yards. And we announced it for a couple weeks. Okay, now this is the north side of Chicago during the day, about 11:30 on a Wednesday or Thursday. I thought we were running in the Olympics. There was lines. I mean, 3, 4 deep. All the station personnel, people from the surrounding neighborhood. Okay, people coming from other neighborhoods, all the way down the 100 yards or 70, 75 yards. And we have pictures of it somewhere. And I raced Chris Zorge. And somebody said, "On your mark, get set, go." And I go, "Let's go." And Chris was already 5 yards ahead of me. The quickness of being a defensive lineman, and this is how you learn, going off the ball. I couldn't believe it. I was just getting ready. Bing! Destroyed me. Beat me by about 10 yards, laughing with his tongue hanging out of his mouth like this. And it was a beautiful promotion. It made everything. It made all the papers. That's what it was about. If the teams weren't making news, I tried to figure out a way for the station to make news. And that was a highly success. The kids from Foreman cutting school right down the street. You hear a Chicago Bear is racing a talk show host. They're coming. Everybody was into the Bears. They're coming. Here's a bear racing. Forget about me. Chicago Bear who could have gotten hurt, could have pulled a hamstring. Okay? Then we really got problems. Didn't phase him one bit. And he's always been my friend. When I had a show for a time at WIND, he was the first guy I called, along with Dan Levy and other people. It was tremendous. BB, the whole crew. It was a lot of fun.
Good guy, Chris Zorich. There was another promotion that you guys ran that ended up making national headlines, and even some international outlets picked up the story. This was, you guys ran you announced that you were going down to attend the Miami Heat Chicago Bulls Eastern Conference playoffs.
Right.
And you asked the audience, your listeners, what question to ask. I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Eldo. Yeah. We're going down to Miami. We're staying with the Bulls at some resort. I forget the name of it. I think it was Turnberry. I can't remember, but I think that was the name of it. And it was beautiful. And we all hung out by the pool. You know, Bill Weddington and Johnny Redker, Tommy Dorr, who I'd done arena football with. I mean, just a good time. And I had asked before we went, look, and I always included the listeners. Always. I made them our third host, me and Jigs and the listeners. And I said, tell me what questions I should ask. And I got some very good questions. But the premise of my questions were going to be this. I want the silliest question you can find. Because at the time, there was a lot of complaint about the foreign press, okay, coming in to the playoffs, into the finals, or into the playoffs. And when Michael Jordan would come up, somebody would go, Mike, what size shoe do you wear? And do you change shoes? I mean, there were some stupid ass questions, okay, that were asked. And there were some obvious questions that were asked. So I said, you know what? Give me your silliest question, not your dumbest. And the one that won, that I had to ask Pat Riley, and I promised I would. You know, people got on Chris Russo for promising to retire if the Arizona Diamondbacks got into the World Series. Okay. They did. He didn't retire. Okay. And he took some heat for it. He should have suspended himself for a week, so he didn't even have to do that. But he didn't do that. And I'm not like that. If I'm going to make a deal, I'll make a deal. So the question was, if Fred Flintstone knew every single day that when he went through the drive-thru that the brontosaurus ribs were going to tip over his car, why did he order them every day? This is what I'm supposed to ask Pat Riley. Now, I was hoping there was going to be a win almost. But here's Pat Riley, looking like the 6'8", lean, mean fighting machine from Brooklyn that he was. He was a guy, folks, that would fight his own players and win if they got in his face. Nobody knows that. They never messed with him, ever, the players. He was that serious. He's 6'8", put together, had a little Bob De Niro look to him back in the day, still does. So he's sitting up at the podium, I'm in line. And everybody that's sitting in the audience, from the score guys to all the other newspapers to around the nation, Comcast at the time in Chicago, all carried all over the place. Van Leer was on the air at the time. I think it was with Steve Cashel, I'm not sure. And they're carrying the press conference live. And I'm next. And Bob Verdi, one of the great guys, one of the great media guys of all time, one of the great writers, is like this. And a lot of other guys are like this. I said, I can't ask Pat Riley that question. I can't. I got to figure something else out. I'm next. If I ask him that question, that's almost too disrespectful. I got to ask him something within the game, but silly. Next. Now, Brian McIntyre, who's a Chicago guy, was head of PR for the NBA. He went to Queen of All Saints Parish. That big parish, ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever been on Devon and Cicero, that big church down there, that was the place that he went to school at. So he knew me. I get up there and I go,
Pat, you know what? It seems like you've done everything that you can right now, and the Bulls are just too good. Would you, if God came down tonight and said, you can win the next 4 games if you shave your head, would you do it? Seriously, because it seems like you're overmatched.
That's a hell of a question, isn't it?
Right, I think it's a good question.
That's a wonderful question. Who do you work for? Who do you work for?
I work for the Score in Chicago.
That's great. That's good. That's a hell of a question. That's good.
Okay.
That's a very nice question, sir. Anything else?
and I got beat up by my own people, got beat up by the press. I remember people saying, that's no way for a journalist. I'm not a journalist. I'm an entertainer and a host. That's the problem today. You got some journalists on. I've never met a journalist that made me belly laugh. Okay? That's no way to ask a question. I mean, and some people are still working today. And they never got it. They never got my act. And they couldn't stand my act because I fire on them. But even Comcast cut it off. They wouldn't even hold it. They didn't want anybody to hear it. But they heard it, and then Howard Stern played it. And then it went all over the place. So the Chicago media has never changed. Anything out of the corny ordinary. Oh, no. We went to Northwestern. We went to this place and that place. I don't give a damn. I hung out on the street corner at Sen, and I asked him a better question than most of you do anyway. But that was a great, great time. And I got escorted out, got thrown out of the arena right away. And my buddy Tino Antonacci calls me. He says, well, they're talking about it all over the country now. I go, talking about what? He says, what you just did, because I was in Miami. And I was thrown out of the arena. The Miami thing, my Miami arena let me get in the picture here. I get all excited. The Miami Arena has a bunch of steps. That's where I was sitting while the rest of them were inside.
What a great story that is, and brings back so many special memories, because that was a time when the Chicago Bulls were clearly dominating the NBA, and for you to go up there and basically express that domination with that funny question was just a perfect Chicago moment.
Jordan comes out of the locker room. And says, just shook his head at me. Pippen starts laughing as they're coming out of the arena. And Rodman comes out. And Dennis and I were friends. Dennis, how are you? Hope you're watching. And says, Dennis Rodman said this to me. Man, you are crazy. You are crazy. Dennis Rodman. I still remember that like it was yesterday. The craziest man in the league telling me I was crazy. It was awesome.
All right, let's talk about some of the promotional stunts, so to speak, that you've done or that you did over at the Score. Number 5.
Well, I think the promotional stunt that I did that ingratiated myself to the people was the World Tour. One of them. The World Tour. And the World Tour was 3 to 4 nights a week. And I could be coming into any bar. Okay. And I was telling people I'm going to go out tonight. I'll be downtown tonight. I'll be on the north side tonight. We're going to do the All Black World Tour, with all the black hosts that I did. We went to all the All Black bars. Here comes me going to the 50-yard line with Jonathan Hood, Jay Hood, Jerry Riles, Lawrence. I don't know if Lawrence Holmes was there, but we had about 10 guys. Jesse came with me too, Jesse Rogers and some other people. And I walk into the 50-yard line, which was in Harvey at the time. Okay, for people that don't know about Harvey, Illinois, mostly black population. The 50-yard line at that time was a go-to place. And all of a sudden, just like in the movies, everybody's dancing. And we walk in. It was like out of the scene from Donnie Brasco. When they have the disco thing going, everybody's dancing, only the whole place is black. And here comes me with, 4 or 5 of my guys. Okay. My friends and others. There's like 10 of us. We had a limo and the whole ball wax. And I walk in and the place stopped. Do you remember Animal House when they all walked into the bar and Otis Day and the Nights were singing?
Sure.
And the place just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. I walk in first. The whole place stops. Then my buddies walked in. We all walked in. And then they started dancing again. The place stopped. The music didn't stop, but they all looked. So we come up to the bar. I don't know what was on. And this beautiful lady comes up to me. She goes, "Can I help you?" I go, "Yeah, can you turn the Honeymooners on, please?" Like that. Well, she starts laughing. And the other people start laughing. And then I start talking about, these are my buddies. The next thing you know, 10 minutes later, I'm out there dancing with some chick.
Nice.
Okay? We're all out there dancing. So that was great. The World Tour, if I said I was going to Gibson's, okay, with Fritzy or Knuckles or Louie or Jesse or Shaky Suntress or any of those guys, people would come in. Gibson's you could shoot a cannon for through in 89, 90, 91. In 92, I started going in there. They befriended me, and they still treat me good. I haven't been there for a while. But we helped build that place up. Not alone. A lot of political people came in. Sid Luckman was a part owner. Doug Buffone had interest. You had politicals now going there. It became the place. And then you had Jilly's across the street. I'll be at Jilly's. We'd be dancing or drinking till 2, 3 in the morning. And then I'd come home, and whether I was at Pasta or whatever. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the night, writing down certain things that happen. Cubs win. Grace gets a hit, key hit. Yeah. Okay. By the end of the night, okay, it looked like it was Chinese. Okay, because of half in the bag. And it was just, and Basta Pasta was huge for me. And Tino Antonacci's, we're still like brothers. He owns one of our sponsors, Pennyville Station. Doesn't own it. He helps his son, Tony, who I knew since he's 12. So, yeah, the world tour was our fifth best one.
Take it away with number 4.
This one was an issue. This was a problem. This was trouble. The Bears had fired Ditka, and I wasn't happy about it because I knew what was going to happen. I knew they were going to suck. You follow Mike Ditka, you're dead. He had the whole crying thing, like the Pope. You know, he's upstairs and from Palace Hall, you know, waving, giving the blessing, you know, that day. And I said, we're through. And they had traded away a lot of his players. They edged them out. Nothing new in corporate America. The Bears are one of the biggest corporations in the National Football League. They're run like a corporation. They're not run like your usual football team, in my opinion. And we were all going to go to Platteville. And I said, I ain't going. They go, excuse me? We got it sponsored. I go, well, so what? I'm not going. That's it. Where you want to go? I go, I want to go to the Saints camp. Ditka had been hired by the Saints. We can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. People are still pissed about Ditka. Give them Ditka. The other guys can go to Platteville. I think we cover both. We see how Ditka adjusts to New Orleans. We see how Wannstedt is going to adjust there at Platteville. Okay? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. We fought for 2 days. And I, at the time, said, I won't go. I stuck to my guns. They started looking into it. Next thing you know, I'm in La Crosse. And we're doing the New Orleans Saints. And I had Ditka on the air for an hour. Okay, every day. I had Heath Schuler on, their quarterback. Okay. Ricky Williams, I think, or a lot of the guys that were on the Saints. They came and did the interviews. They were more accessible than the Bears were at times with the other guys. And then Old Style was sponsoring us. Okay. So they got a sponsor. The problem was that Old Style, the day I was there, laid off 500 people, regular people, regular Joes. And it was all over the place because that was in La Crosse, losing 500 people. I knew what it meant. I laid them out. How can you, when I'm here promoting you on this day, be more aware? Maybe you don't know, but I don't like 500 people being laid off anyway. That's just the way it is. Now Old Style calls the score. Another problem. Okay, we're not going to pay if he does this. We're not going to do this you signed the deal. Number one. But I basically said they're mad. Here's how you can make me unmad. Hire back at least one of them. Hire back 10 of them. Let's see if you can do that. Because they could. You know that, Al.
Sure.
No way. So I was relentless. It worked out. We made our money. But I had to. Ellen Miller was the sales girl. Sweetheart. Wonderful person. Great person. It felt bad about that she had to be the in-between. But she also was the one that made out because I decided to go to La Crosse. So, number 3, Caucasian Man, is probably one of my greatest promos of all time. I did a song about my father. When you hear it, you'll understand. I think right now we need Caucasian Man more than ever. I think we might have to resurrect Caucasian Man. The Caucasian Man is a rundown man right now. when you hear people from corporations saying, and I heard something here, we're not hiring white guys right now. We need Caucasian man back. It's one of the great songs. We had a horn section. Phil Vaughn, who's gone now, put it together. We had 4 horns, 2 guitars. We had drums. We had a 10-piece orchestra or a 10-piece band. And I sang it. And when these guys, and half of them were brothers, okay? 2 of the horn players, well, I got to know them all. It took about 5-6 hours to record. It was on Elston Avenue somewhere towards Milwaukee, down, small studio. When they read the lyrics, they laughed. And I said, if they're laughing at the lyrics, and this was the second one I've done. The first one was one of my favorites too, but it needed updating because I had to change from Robert Mitchum to Bob De Niro too. It was sort of like, let's spruce it up a little bit. Let's bring it up to date. I bring up Ryan Sandberg in the second one. I brought up Mantle in the first one or somebody like that. So that was my third best one.
Caucasian man. Hey, Caucasian man. Hey, how you doing, everybody? It's your old pal Pasty. You like submarine sandwiches? How about a beef with jardiniere? Would you like an egg salad on white? How about a liver sausage sandwich on white? Well, you've come to the right place because I'm Caucasian man. Who likes Mary Como? Only drinks the can. A vertical leap of 1.5 inches. Caucasian man. Oh, Caucasian man can. Caucasian man can, cause he always needs a tan. Loves Sinatra songs too. Oh, who likes John Wayne movies? Bob De Niro too. Who likes to go bowling and scope abroad or two? Caucasian man. Oh, Caucasian man can. Caucasian man can, cause he goes to lumber yards and gets some mighty fine wood. Oh, Caucasian man fakes 6 days that he takes and never feels bad about it. Oh, he talks about the job he will quit. He sits at local bars and gets heavily. Loser will Purdue. Caucasian man. Oh, Caucasian man can. Caucasian man can, cause he always needs a dance and loves Sinatra songs too. Caucasian man. Caucasian man. Caucasian man's big. For you and you. He's Caucasian. He's a Caucasian man. He's tasty like you and you. Caucasian man. Ha! He's a man. Caucasian man. Caucasian man. Oh, yeah. He's like a ghost, Caucasian man.
Oh, man. That was unbelievable. And I teared up a little bit because one of my buddies, Phil Dunn, is no longer with us. And I saw Phil there, and I haven't seen that for a long, long time. And Louie, my buddy Louie, and Catherine Saxon, and Marina, and all the people that we knew. And I said, we got to do a video, because the first one, we didn't do a video. We just did the audio. And videos were big at that time. I still think it's a hit. I think it's up there, and I'm sorry, with, Weird Al Yankovic. I think it's right there. I did a couple others that were good too, but Caucasian man it's basically my, how do I say it? Return to sender. It's basically it's my signature song. It's it's basically my hard day's night. It just was a lot of fun. Edison Park Inn had a bowling alley on the second floor. We did my backyard. We did in my home. That was my basement at Pappy Land at the time. Beautiful, beautiful design basement with a 20-stool bar. Home Depot. We did all on location shoots where I'm carrying out. That was my dad. And it was a tribute to him. And it was fun. Nobody could really say much about that one. I'll tell you that right now. But that was great to see again.
Sensational job. And where'd you get all those beautiful women? That's what I want to know.
Good. And I brought them to my house. And BB was great. BB's, listen, when you want to talk about somebody that was built for the business, I believe I was built to be a talk show host, but I believe she was built to be, not only do I love her, but she was built to know how to handle stuff. Why do it somewhere else? Do it at the house. And we had the time of our lives. We really did. That was a fun shoot that day. And what can I tell you? And I noticed you didn't say any of the guys were good looking.
No, they weren't. That's a great video.
Buddy Louie, the guy whose glasses went down.
Yeah,
I got a second grade picture with me and him in it. That's how long I've known him.
We'll be right back with more Raging Mouth after this word from our sponsor. Let's move on to number 3.
I did what I thought was the greatest promo I've ever done. And all I got was my ass kicked for it from a bunch of liberal media stooges who basically gave in and tried to make me look bad. I did a thing called Cigarettes for Soldiers. Okay. And my idea was during the war in Iraq, okay, that weapons of mass destruction, all that BS, our guys were over there. So Annie Maxfield, I think Jerry Riles, I think we had a bunch of people. I can't remember if we had other people there. I think we had Steve Buckman, who was there were all sorts of people there. Packed house. All you had to do was come by. There'd be a dumpster on Tui. They put the dumpster right on Tui, drive by and toss some cigarettes in the dumpster. And we'll send them along with a kit overseas. Had it all set up with the USO, the whole ball wax, because we were detailed. We start doing the show. People are driving by, dropping cartons, throwing loose cigarettes in, throwing packs in. Within 3 hours, the thing was filled. You know how big a dumpster is? And there was a line of people at Jack's, which is now, I believe, closed. And I get home, and they come, all the TV stations came to interview us. And it was great. That night, the American Cancer Society came after me. They said, how can you promote cigarettes even to our soldiers? I said, because they'll be dead maybe next week. You telling me I can't sense? This is how, don't tell me about woke starting now, that this is a recent phenomenon. This was in 94, 95, 90, no, I think like 99. You're getting on me? These guys are 20, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. They're going to smoke after they get out. I want them to live and be able to smoke. So they came after me. And that's when I knew every group, from Operation Push to the Italian groups to the American Cancer Society, everybody, if they had an agenda, okay, they could get their agenda done by going through me. And that's what they did. I think that was a low point in the American Cancer Society's day. They should have just let that one go. What did you think of that? They're after me, and I'm trying to do a good thing.
Right.
You know?
They should not have gone public with it. They should have called you and talked it out, as opposed to trying to get the publicity or whatever the hell the
It
cancer
turned into a
society was.
bonanza for me. Everybody thought they were wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody thought they were wrong. For the most part, what are they doing? Pick your fights. Don't pick somebody that's... And then we were sending other stuff to them, so it was hilarious. Hug a Black Day is my favorite. I walked into WXRT in 1991. I had been there before, and they had wonderful employees there. It wasn't a black station. It was a rock and roll station. Okay. So it was more of a white genre station. WXRTs are listening for everybody. I know Norm Van Leer listened, but for the most part, the sales they made, the things that they did, the DJs that they had, the salespeople that they had, my boss, Danny Lee, Seth Mason, it was just that type of genre that was mostly white. We had one girl, sales girl that was African-American, was black, and we had our janitor, who was black. And I walked in, and then once the score started, I looked around. I said, okay. And then I started going on remotes. We started doing remotes. And they were all in white bars. All in white bars. I go, hey. I'm working with Dan Jiggets, and, we were very popular on the north side, on the south side, on the west side. I mean, we were popular all over. So I go into management and I say, hey, how come we're not doing any remotes in the black areas? We're doing them in Niles. We're doing them in Westchester. We're doing them all over. And they just stood there. I said, I think we should do something. I said, we haven't done anything in a while here. And of course, we were a young station at the time. But over the first couple of years, we weren't doing a whole lot. So I'm thinking after the show, and after I talked to my guy, Danny Lee, bing, why don't we bring them here? If you're not going to go over there, bring them here. I said, Danny, I want to try something. And I had to run it through promotions, and they'd come in with me. I want to do a promotion. He goes, what's that? I go, Hug a Black Day. He goes, hug a what? I go, Hug a Black Day. I want to have all the blacks come to Belmont. And I want to have soul food. Okay. I want to be playing soul music. Okay. I want to have just like a festival, if you will, right there. Okay. Danny Lee says, you got it. I didn't have to call. It wasn't a corporation, which they wouldn't do anyway now. They would never do this. Danny Lee, who was a genius, who was the driving force behind this station, who got it, says, okay. So I'm starting to announce it. Okay. And then all of a sudden, the day that it comes, everybody's outside. We got soul food out there. We're playing the Temptations. We're playing Sam and Dave. We're playing all these great soul groups, the Four Tops. Don't make me start weeping. I'll name you every Motown act, the Supremes, Aretha from Atlantic Records. I mean, when it comes to African American history, like I used to say, and it would piss some blacks off on, I could teach a class, okay, over many African Americans, but nobody ever challenged me on that. So I said, let's bring them there. So now, the day of, there's a line from Laverne all the way to Cicero Avenue. You know how far that is, folks? And they're coming. And there's a long line of black people on Belmont in 93 or 4, which black people on Belmont in 93 and 94 wasn't like black people on Belmont now. So people are driving by and they're seeing this. Okay. Jig stayed inside. He came out, waved to people, but he had to run things inside. And he knew this was a promotion. He was cool with it. Didn't say anything against it that I know of. In fact, I think he sort of relished it. Don't forget, Dan was one of the driving voices at that time in radio. But he kept low key because that's what he had to do. Why not? He's got to. And I hugged every person. I said, have some food. We had some trinkets, some score koozies, some keychains. We gave everybody a gift. What happens? Operation Push Calls. This is Jesse Jackson. I'd like to talk about what's going on down there in Belmont Avenue, and Willie Barrow would like to come by also. So Ron Gleason tells me, Jesse Jackson's coming here. I go, when? He goes, tomorrow. I go, okay, I'll put him on the air. He goes, I don't know if he wants to do that. I go, why not? He goes, but it's about Hug a Black Day. I go, does he know what it was about? I'm not sure. But he thinks you're patronizing blacks. I go, patronizing them? I'm paying attention to them. I'm hugging them. I'm having fun. They're part of our station. They're a huge part of our listenership. Okay, the next day he shows up. I come and do my shift. Okay, I get there about an hour early. I think I was supposed to, and there he is. There he is. I get introduced to him. I go, hey, how you doing, Jesse? He goes, fine. I just want to know what this is going about. I go, you got the wrong idea, brother. I said, first of all, I'm doing this because they weren't getting enough attention. I'm doing this because I want to do some Southside remotes. I'm doing this because I think we've been overlooked. I'm doing this because I love the black culture. Okay, so much that I was ostracized in my own neighborhood. But don't read what the regular media says. They'll call me something else. Okay, which is completely wrong. And I don't want you to buy into it. So I give him my reasoning, right? He goes, you know what? That makes sense. We shake hands. He came on the air with me and Dan for an hour. We became such good friends. I got a picture of me and Jesse. We're like this, shaking hands. Because later on, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, he called me to help him. And the two of us helped get that Ernie Banks statue up there. We were the driving forces, Jesse Jackson and Mike North. And he called me to help him with it. He didn't call anybody else. He didn't call the Sun-Times. He didn't call the Tribune. He called me because he had been to a Tribune stockholder meeting and he brought it up because all they were doing was honoring announcers at the time, from Jack Brickhouse to Harry Carey to, and you name it. And he said, how come Ernie Banks doesn't have a statue? And look it up when he had a statue finally built. He'd been retired from baseball for like almost 25 years. And we got the statue put up. And Jesse called me. He didn't call anybody else. He says, we can get this done, because they ignored me at the Tribune and I'm hot. And he knew I was the guy to go.
And I remember how the Chicago newspapers covered it. It wasn't exactly complimentary.
No, it's like, see, racist is a bad word. People don't know what racism is. They don't. I was in Leesville, Louisiana in 1972. Okay. My drill sergeant invited us to a party, who was Marvin Hubbard, who was black. I saw what racism is. Prejudice, okay, is a different story. Okay, there's prejudice all over on any side. There's prejudice all over. And that's how the media tried to use. How many people that would be targeted like that would have Hug a Black Day? Did Strom Thurmond ever have Hug a Black Day? Did George Washington ever have Hug a Black Day? Did Ty Cobb ever have Hug a Black Day? No. Mike North had Hug a Black Day.
There you go.
Yep. And then my last one was, so now I go, oh, this is hot. We got coverage, good or bad. I had the stomach for it. You know, I told a host one time who got in trouble, I go, you want to be a rebel, but you don't want to pay the price. And believe me, I've paid the price many a times, but I believe in everything I did. So now I come up with this idea. And this one was going to be, I thought, maybe a tougher sell. Hug a Jew Day. Okay. I go into Danny Lee, as Jewish as any man's ever been. Seth Mason, as Jewish as any man's ever been. Jeff Schwartz, as Jewish as in fact, the station hierarchy was Jewish. I go in about a month later. I go, I got one, Danny. He goes, what? Hug a Jew Day. He goes, Hug a Jew Day? I go, yeah. Hug a Jew Day. It's 1992. People still, I mean, I think it was 1996. I forget the years. Whatever. It was early. I go, do you know, and I knew this at the time. All of a sudden, everybody's surprised in 2024, right? I go, Danny, you and I know. You went to Sullivan. I went to Sen. Okay? Northside kids. We grew up in Jewish neighborhoods. I grew up in an all-Jewish building. But am I supposed to believe that there's no anti-Semitism in this country? He goes, oh, no. He goes, you're not supposed to believe that. I go, that's right. I want to do Hug a Jew Day. Because pretty soon, okay, down the line, who knows? We're not that far removed from what happened anyway. And my buddies, my original friends, who I love, and if you're out there, I know Freddie Feldman's out there, Stanley Feldman, Perry Hertzberg, Paul Hertzberg, Bruce Seaman. These were all Jewish guys I grew up with. The only Catholic guys were me and my two brothers. And I remember how great they were. And I still remember how from 1967 on, you know, Arafat and everybody else and the trouble they got now. So I said to Danny, let's do Hug a Jew Day. He goes, let me think about it. The next day, you're on. So what we had was Jewish food, which isn't my favorite, by the way, Aldo. Not my favorite, but Jewish food. We had some Jewish food. We had a yarmulke contest. We had music. We were giving away score stuff. Once again, line down the street. And here they are. I had my yarmulke that I was given, and I stood up for Jesse Rogers. Somebody gave me a yarmulke that day that had the White Sox logo on it. And nice. Mrs. Rogers, his mother, was not happy with me. But I said, I got my own yarmulke, and I wore the White Sox yarmulke at Jesse's wedding. And it was a hit. But that was given to me by a listener, a Jewish listener. And we had the time of our lives. And they said thank you to me. So I've always said, and I know Jeff Schwartz has always said, that I was ahead of my time with that. And then I wanted to do more, and they said, that's enough for the most part. That's it. But those were the two that I did, and they got plenty of criticism. I got criticism from the Jewish media, which is no surprise to me now, for doing a Jewish thing like that. No surprise to me, whatever. None. Because I know just look it up. Look the people up who were doing TV critics at the time. They were Jewish, and they're giving me a hard time for this. A Catholic Irish Italian kid wanting to bring Jewish listeners in and meet us and just hang out. So that was good. That went off well too. And my Jewish managers, owners, and everybody backed me 100%, which made it all that much easier.
That's it for chapter 3.3 of Raging Mouth. Mike and I will be back where he will share his story about his departure from the score, about the driving under the influence charge that he faced, some of the other controversies before the score, and then his days over at Fox Radio and much more. That'll be coming out soon. Make sure you are a subscriber to Raging Mouth on YouTube or wherever you get your audio podcasts, and don't miss a single episode or bonus feature. I'm Aldo Gandia for Rahl Jewelers and Mike North. Goodbye.